Hi guys, it is Tasha. Hope you guys are having an amazing evening. Um, I am coming on here. It's Sunday. I hope that everyone is well. I am the founder of Talk to Tasha. I specialize in getting women, more specifically social workers and social workers at heart, to stop working themselves to death so they can start living their life like it's golden. One of the things I do know, and you guys all know, that life is very, very precious, it's very, very short. When you look at the climate of our country right now and this whole craze of busyness to the point that we starve out the needs of our children and our little people that is craving our attention, is pretty insane. And sometimes we have good intentions. We're trying to do all these different things to make the family stay afloat. But I'm not sure if you guys paid attention. God is doing so much more with less. I think that we operate in fear a lot of times, especially for you guys that can say you really worked your butt off to come from other dispositions. But this is a time right now we need to trust God more than ever. He knows what we need. He knows our cries. He knows our unspoken and spoken requests. And if we do not calm the crazy down, I'm just afraid that we will be more and more disconnected. We are real big on selfies. I mean, I like selfies myself. It's fun. You have that still moment. You have people that are on lavish vacations and are not really fully enthralled in the vacation because they're recording every moment. And so I just want to lend our awareness to that as we are in the month of stress awareness. I am coming on here because one of our Care Bears, who I want to say was a divine connection, and I still maintain that it took me to be laid up in the hospital and start reflecting on my life in order for me to realize that I wasn't truly living. I was serving literally myself to death. And what I do know is if people want to change, they have to make up their mind to change. There's nothing we can do to get them to change. I know that people will dump on you if you allow them to dump their problems on you and keep going with no intentions of changing. And so I do know my Care Bears that I interchangeably refer to us as. We have got to learn how to value ourselves far greater than what we do for others because you're worthy whether or not you're giving. You're worthy because of whose you are. And so that's something that I'm always enlighten our Care Bears on because it's very important. Most people don't sit a Care Bear down and say, girl, you're working too much. In fact, if you're not careful, you are really taken advantage of. And I hope you guys can hear me because I'm trying to get to my speaker here. But it's very important that we have these conversations. And that awareness is even heightened for me. Okay, here we go. So we'll turn this down a little bit. So that awareness is even more heightened for me because I have a Care Bear. We have a Care Bear who I met divinely. It seems like I've been knowing her forever. And she came prior to COVID to several of my workshops that we call retreats and things to exhale and elevate. And at the time, she was in a place of self discovery, like many of us are. And one thing I do know that God bring us the right people at the right time in the time of need. And so we became fast friends, sisters in Christ. One of the things I want to say is that when God tell you to do something and he give you like little bits and pieces on how to do it, you will have people to tell you do it this way and do it that way. I've always maintained that Talk to Tasha ministry is for all races, all cultures. Some people wanted me to do just Black women and this and that. But what the Lord has showed me is that this whole segregated way of fellowshipping and connecting with other human beings is something that we all need to understand, that we could miss our blessing and miss what God is saying to us if we stay so closed off. Now, some businesses and organizations, they do need to have, you know, racially sound and culturally relevant type programming. We don't minimize that at all. But I do know when it comes to a servant, a person who's a giver, a social worker, a social worker, um, it is a common denominator that we struggle with some things, setting boundaries and honoring ourselves according to who we are and not what we do. And so I never wanted to leave anybody out that needed that mental rest, that spiritual recharge, if you will. And so I'm so glad that I operated in the vein that God told me. Otherwise, I would not have been able to meet such amazing women from all different cultures and backgrounds. And I've learned so much from them. I learned how much we are, more the same than we are different. There's a lot of commonalities. And so, with that being said, our Care Bear had been really struggling with, in the beginning, her cancer diagnosis. And she beat cancer the first time. And then she got news that the cancer came again. And by this time, she wasn't so sure if she was going to do chemo, because the first round was just so hard on her body. It killed her appetite. She had very little energy. She had a lot of pain. But the one thing I can say is she was a woman of faith. She was determined to eat. We had meetups at Denny's every month as much as we could in between her chemo, and she was able to eat. We love to joke around, if you're not going to eat your hotcakes, I will, and she would try to stuff her little self. She was really happy about her body because with the chemo, she would lose weight, but she didn't want to lose too much. She was very optimistic and very faith driven. And she had reached a point where she says, whatever God's will be, that's what it's going to be. But she refused to lay up in the bed and just give up. She said she wasn't going to quit. And I want to say the last few weeks, I've been blowing up her phone, trying to figure out, because she ended up leaving California with the second diagnosis to go ahead and be closer to her family. And she was able to fulfill that. I was, really, I used to look forward to going over to her house. And during COVID, we had these little jokes about like COVID and all this stuff. So I would always pull up on her with our mask and like drop her off um, Starbucks and different things like that. Because I'm the one that like to fatten people up. So I'm like, okay, if you can't eat, you're going to suck down some of these calories and stuff. And she would always be game for it, meet me out in the parking lot, and I would give it to her. So those are really, really cool memories. The other thing that I learned from her was self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness. Um, One of the things she refused to do is to not want to live in her past and not want to blame herself for her past. And that's kind of like the conversations we would have. And so I learned a whole lot about forgiving yourself and not beating yourself up over the head about what we could have did or should have did and all that kind of stuff. And also just surrendering your life to Christ at whatever age, whenever that revelation comes. But I want to say, don't wait, do not wait. There's more to living when you give yourself to Christ than the contrary, what people believe. And so, with that being said, I wasn't able to reach her in the last couple of weeks. I just found out that she actually passed away on April 11th at 5 a.m. in the morning. So I was able to get the message from her sister through Messenger, and I'm so grateful she told me, because I've always been praying and wondering, where she was. We still had our conversations on the phone, and things like that. So I just wanted to say, like, death for me, it brings me life perspective. It brings me an awareness. As difficult as things may be, it reminds me how temporary life is, and like we all have to cross that journey at some point. Nobody really likes to talk about it, but that's part of the thing in our world now. It's like we skate and slide over things instead of just talking about them. And so as you start getting older, you realize, you know what? I have to live with eternity in mind. And with that being the case, there's no need to wake up in despair. There's no need to wake up and live and vibrate when you have awakened breath to be extraordinary, and not wasted, if you will, on being toxic, that kind of thing, or not really doing what you're supposed to be doing because you're so fearful. Some things are scary in life, but the Lord will take you on that journey because He the one who assigned you to do that thing anyway. So I just wanted to say, keep Nancy and her family in prayer. Well, not Nancy, but because she's in good hands. But her family, her kids and grandkids, she's very close to her grandkids, um, and her sisters and stuff. Just keep them in prayer, and hopefully, as you guys are preparing for work and different things you're having to do tomorrow, you will embrace the whole idea of taking a break off of things that are not serving you in the way that you should be living. Stress and burnout and all those different things that's tugging at many of you guys is not how we're going to do 2021. So hopefully, something I said or some reflections would help you. But most of the time, the thing that you need to do, right? There's no need to minimize that. Do the right thing you need to do, whether that's resting, whether that's gaining perspective on life, whether that's stop procrastinating and putting off what you're supposed to be doing, whether that means you need to clean out some things in your head space, heart space, and all those different places, maybe spending more time meditating, whatever it is for you to have added peace so you can have clarity to do what you need to do is what I would encourage you guys to do. Alrighty, so you guys have an amazing evening. You do yourself a favor and unplug, turn off those phones, computers, and just have a good night, a good night's rest. Alrighty. Nobody breathing. Searched all over. Hey, couldn't find nobody. Everybody low. You gonna drink one to the store? Couldn't find nobody. Huh?